This video is about she took her kids to the rooftop bar and a billionaire handed her an umbrella. If this story touches your heart, please mention where you are watching from in the comments. Please like the video and share your thoughts in comments. The city skyline gleamed under a late afternoon sun, a canvas painted with splashes of gold and rust as dusk began to creep in. In the midst of it all, a rooftop bar hummed with laughter, clinking glasses, and the soft notes of a jazz trio playing in the corner. It was far from the ideal spot for a mother of two, yet here Nora found herself, balancing her responsibilities and a moment of respite. "Mom, can I have a soda?" her youngest, Emily, chirped, her wide blue eyes sparkling with excitement. 8 years old and wielding charm like a sword, Emily had an uncanny ability to draw in attention, especially in the vibrant setting of the bar. "Sure, but just one," Nora replied, giving her daughter a soft smile. She brushed a few strands of her dark hair behind her ear, taking a moment to appreciate the happiness radiating from her children. "And no climbing on the stools, okay? Let us keep it together." Her older son, Jacob, who was 12, rolled his eyes. "You sound like Grandma," he teased, a hint of his father as easy grin breaking across his face. Jacob had just entered that awkward age where sarcasm mingled with a desperate need for independence. "Then I guess I am doing something right," Nora shot back playfully, making a mental note to appreciate these moments, even when they felt fleeting. The clatter of dishes and the murmur of conversation swirled around her, a backdrop to the thoughts that had been nagging at her since her divorce. As she ordered the drinks at the bar, she felt the weight of her situation more acutely. The past year had been a whirlwind marriage that had crumbled under the weight of unmet expectations, financial strain, and the crushing reality of single parenthood. But in the presence of her children, she tried to bury those thoughts beneath a layer of joy. When the bartender set the drinks down before her, she turned to find a tall man leaning casually against the bar, a drink clutched in one hand and an amused smile playing at the corners of his lips. He was striking in an effortlessly charming way, with tousled dark hair and a tailored suit that hinted at wealth. "Excuse me," he said, his voice smooth like the jazz notes wafting through the air. "But I couldn't help but overhear your grandma comment. You sound like someone who knows how to juggle responsibilities." Nora raised an eyebrow, surprised by the unexpected attention. "You could say that," she replied, attempting to keep her tone light and friendly rather than defensive. "They keep me busy." "Busy is good," he said, his gaze lingering on her for just a heartbeat longer than necessary. "I am Alex, by the way." He extended a hand in greeting, and when Nora took it, a brief spark of electricity zipped through her. "Nora," she replied, withdrawing her hand quickly as she felt a blush creeping up her neck. It was a momentary lapse, a fleeting chemistry that sent her mind racing. She couldn't afford to entertain those thoughts, not now, not here. "Nice to meet you, Nora," he said, leaning a bit closer as if to shield the conversation from the noise around them. "I didn't mean to interrupt your family time, just you caught my attention." "Not the typical bossing for kids, I know," she admitted, her gaze drifting back to Emily, who was now animatedly chatting with Jacob, her little hands gesturing wildly. "But the view is beautiful, and they've been begging to take a trip to the city." "Honestly, I think it's great," Alex replied, his expression genuinely warm. "I admire a parent who wants to expose their kids to new experiences. You seem like you've got it all together." Nora chuckled lightly, the compliment wrapping around her like a warm blanket. "If you only knew," she murmured under her breath, half to herself. Just then, dark clouds rolled in, obscuring the sun and casting a shadow over the rooftop. "Looks like rain," Alex noted, glancing at the sky. "Perfect timing for a drink then, right? Although," he gestured toward the gathering clouds, "I think a storm might be coming." "Nah, we'll be fine," she said too quickly. She didn't want to seem overly cautious, she wanted to embrace the moment. "Besides, my kids love water. A little rain won't hurt them." Before he could respond, a sudden gust of wind blew through the bar, sending napkins swirling like confetti. Nora instinctively reached for Emily, who was now giggling as the wind tousled her hair. Just as Nora's heart skipped a beat, she saw a flash of movement out of the corner of her eye. Alex was approaching, an umbrella in hand. "Here," he said, offering it to her. "You can borrow this if you need it." "Though, no, really, you don't have to," she started, but he interrupted her. "I insist," he said, his voice firm but kind. Consider it a genuine gesture from one parent to another. A small crease formed between her brows. "Are you sure? I wouldn't want to impose." There was a hint of playfulness in her tone, but part of her felt exposed, like accepting the umbrella would mean acknowledging the chemistry crackling between them. Trust me, it is no imposition, he smiled, the warmth reaching his eyes. Besides, if you do get caught in the rain, I wouldn't want to be responsible for ruining a great family outing. Nora hesitated, her heart racing. She wanted to decline, to stick to her routine of self-sufficiency, but the honesty in his gaze made her reconsider. Thank you, Alex, I appreciate it. As she accepted the umbrella, their fingers brushed against each other briefly. The touch sent a jolt of awareness through her, leaving her momentarily speechless. I'll make sure to return it, she stammered. Don't worry about it, he replied, his voice low, thick with a mixture of charm and sincerity. I have a feeling you'll be able to return it in person. Nor couldn't he help but smile, caught off guard by the sudden warmth of their exchange. But just then, the first drops of rain began to fall, gentle at first, quickly escalating into a steady shower. Okay, let us get you two under cover, she called to her children, who squealed with delight as they dashed toward the bar as overhang. She followed, holding the umbrella above them, feeling a strange sense of calm wash over her in the midst of the chaos. Alex joined them, a bemused smile on his face. A rooftop bar with a storm, now that's a story worth telling, he said, his eyes glinting with mischief. Nor couldn't he help but admire him. There was something magnetic about his presence, a confidence that both intrigued and intimidated her. But with her kids beside her, she reminded herself to keep her guard up. Yeah, well, let us just hope it doesn't ruin the night, she replied, a teasing lilt in her voice. Inside, however, a flicker of vulnerability flared up. Would this be another fleeting moment that faded into the background of her life, or could it be something more? As the rain pattered against the umbrella, she caught Alex watching her, his gaze steady, his smile genuine. Time seemed to suspend in that moment, caught on the edge of possibility and the weight of reality. Somewhere in the distance, thunder rumbled, but for Nora, it was the spark between them, the potential of what could unfold that made her pulse quicken. And just like that, she found herself wondering how she might navigate these unfamiliar waters, balancing the thrill of connection against the backdrop of her responsibilities. Little did she know, this storm was only the beginning. The rain pounded against the umbrella, a rhythmic accompaniment to the lively chatter and laughter that continued to echo around the rooftop bar. Nora held the umbrella over her children, their delighted squeals blending with the sound of the downpour. The storm transformed the atmosphere, lending it an intimacy that felt unexpected yet thrilling. Mom, can we go dance? Emily asked, her eyes wide with excitement, her cheeks flushed with the thrill of the rain. Yeah, it's like a party, Jacob added, glancing at Alex, who was still standing close, sheltering himself under the umbrella. Dancing? In the rain? Alex chuckled, his eyes sparkling with mischief. Now that sounds like a scene from a movie. Nor couldn't he suppress a smile. That's tempting as that sounds. I think we should stay dry for now, she said, glancing up at the sky, which was threatening more than just rain. Just a little dance, please? Emily pleaded, her little hands clasped together. Okay, fine, Nora relented, chuckling. Just for a minute, but under the overhang, and don't go too far. Yay. Emily squealed, pulling Jacob along with her, and they both skipped out from under the umbrella's protection, laughing as they twirled and danced, arms outstretched, trying to catch raindrops. Look at them, Alex said, his tone warm. They really know how to enjoy life. Nora watched her children with a sense of pride and a tinge of sadness, an awareness that these moments were fleeting. They're still young enough to believe in magic, she said softly, her gaze lingering on Emily's joy. I want to hold on to that for as long as I can. Magic is important, Alex replied, his voice taking on a more serious tone. It is the little things that keep us going, right? Exactly, she agreed, feeling the weight of his gaze as it lingered on her. There was a depth in his expression that resonated within her, and she felt an unsettling flutter in her chest. Just then, a crash of thunder roared overhead, making Emily squeak in delight. Mom, it sounds like a giant is clapping. More like a dragon, Jacob chimed in, eyeing the darkening clouds. I think we should head inside soon. With a sigh, Nora knew he was right. Okay, let us wrap it up, she called out, beckoning them back. Time to take cover, kids. Can tea let you catch a cold? As they huddled back under the umbrella, she felt Alex shift closer, the warmth of his body brushing against hers. She was struck by how natural it felt, but also how quickly her heart began racing. Thanks for being such a good sport, she said, her voice a little breathless. Anytime, he replied, his smile broadening. You make it easy. A moment stretched between them, charged with unspoken words. Nora caught his gaze, feeling a magnetic pull that both thrilled and terrified her. So, Do you come here often? She asked, attempting to break the tension while mentally scolding herself for sounding clear. Not really, he admitted, running a hand through his hair, which had begun to curl in the humidity. I actually came here for a business meeting, but I couldn't resist the view. She laughed lightly, the sand breaking some of the tension. The view from up here is incredible, even with the rain. True, he said, their eyes locking for a moment that felt much longer. But I think I might have found a better reason to come back, he added, his tone playful yet serious. Nora felt her cheeks warm under his gaze, her pulse quickening. You've got a funny way of flirting, she said, half teasing, half challenging. Am I flirting? I thought I was just being friendly, he said, his smile widening, revealing a subtle charm that made her heart do a strange flip. Friendly, huh? She raised an eyebrow, her voice playful but laced with an undercurrent of seriousness. Were you always this charming with strangers? I save my best charm for when it is warranted, he replied, leaning a little closer, the intimacy in his tone sending a shiver down her spine. And trust me, this is warranted. Nora swallowed hard, feeling vulnerable under the intensity of his gaze. Part of her wanted to lean into the moment, to bask in the thrill of a connection she hadn't felt in years. But the shadows of her past loomed large in her mind, warning her. Suddenly, Emily tugged at her arm, pulling her attention away. Mom, can we get ice cream after this? She asked, her eyes sparkling with rainwater and excitement. Of course, sweetheart, Nora replied, forcing a smile, though her mind was still tangled up in a whirl of uncertainty. Great, I want chocolate, Emily declared, bouncing on her toes, and Jacob chimed in with his favorite flavor as well. Alex watched them both, his expression softening. You're doing a fantastic job with them, he remarked, his tone sincere. They were lucky to have you. Thanks, she said, a small blush creeping up her cheeks again. It is a work in progress, though. He tilted his head, a hint of curiosity in his expression. What do you mean? Nora hesitated, her heart thundering. You know, being a single mom, it has its challenges sometimes. I feel like I am failing more than succeeding. Every parent feels that way at times, he said, his voice steady and reassuring. You were not alone in that. The sincerity in his gaze made her heart flutter with something that felt dangerously close to hope. She turned her face toward the rain, feigning interest in the downpour. I appreciate that, really. It is just that sometimes it feels overwhelming. I want to be everything they need. You are, he insisted, his voice firm yet gentle. You are here with them, experiencing life, creating memories. That is all that matters. Nora felt the warmth of his words wrap around her like a comforting embrace. It is just hard, you know, balancing everything, she admitted, looking down, her vulnerability hanging between them like fragile glass. It is okay to lean on others, Nora, he said softly, even when you feel like you have to carry the weight alone. Her heart raced at his words, a flicker of something deep and profound igniting within her. You were very perceptive, Alex, she replied, a hint of admiration lacing her tone. It's just trying to see the world through your eyes, he said, the intensity of his gaze holding her captive. You have a lot going on, and it is okay to let others in. As thunder rumbled in the distance, Nora felt a mix of fear and exhilaration. For a moment, she pondered the possibility of allowing this connection to deepen a new friendship, perhaps something more, but the reality of her life loomed large. Mom, dance with us. Emily squealed suddenly, breaking the moment, pulling Nora back to the present. Nora laughed, her heart tugging in two directions. All right, let us dance, she called out, stepping out from under the umbrella despite the rain. Alex followed suit, his presence solid beside her as they joined the children, laughter spilling from their lips. In that moment, everything else faded away, the doubts, the fears, the loneliness. Just for a while, they danced, twirled under the rain, and embraced the magic of the moment. As they spun together, with Emily's laughter ringing in the air and Jacob's playful teasing filling the spaces between their movements, Nora caught Alex's eye once more. In his gaze was a promise, a hint of understanding that could lead to something more. But as the storm raged around them, she couldn't help but wonder if she was ready to open her heart again, to let someone in past the walls she had built. For now, though, she would enjoy this dance, this moment of joy and connection, and see where the night would take her. The rain poured relentlessly over the rooftop, but laughter and music melded with the sound of nature strumming, creating a symphony that filled the air with joyous vibrancy. Nora found herself swept up in the moment, her heart racing as she danced alongside her children and Alex, his presence grounding her even amidst the chaos. Look, Mom, I am a rain fairy. Emily twirled, her laughter ringing like chimes in the storm. Her blonde hair, now damp and wild, framed her face like a halo. Jacob, not to be outdone, attempted to mimic her dance, slipping on the slick floor but catching himself just in time. Nor couldn't he help but chuckle at their antics, her worries momentarily forgotten. Standing beside her, Alex mirrored her smile, the corners of his mouth lifting in genuine delight. "They're incredible," he said, his voice rising above the laughter and rain. "They take after their dad," she replied reflexively, the words slipping from her mouth before she could catch them. The mention of her ex-husband hung in the air like a thick fog, dampening her heart for just a moment. At least the fun-loving part. "Sounds like he was a good dad," Alex said, his brow furrowing slightly. "Or at least you think so." Nor felt a pang of discomfort. "It is complicated," she muttered, averting her gaze to the rain-soaked city below. She didn't want to dive into her past, not now, not when the moment was so beautifully alive. "Let us focus on the present." "All right," he said, his tone lightening, though she sensed a flicker of curiosity lingering beneath the surface. "Then let us be rain fairies together." As they continued to dance, the tension that lingered between them was palpable, crackling like the thunder rumbling in the distance. Nor could feel the warmth radiating from Alex as they twirled under the damper. He moved with a grace that was both intoxicating and disarming, pulling her into a world where the weight of her responsibilities faded. She caught glimpses of him when she dared to glance his way, his eyes filled with a playful spark, the way his lips curved as he watched her children, and the lively cadence of his laughter that melded so seamlessly with their joy. And yet, there was something deeper behind his eyes, a connection that felt unexpectedly intense. "Okay, if we keep dancing, we might end up with pneumonia," Jacob exclaimed, dragging Emily back under the shelter of the umbrella. "Oh, but I was just getting started." Emily patted, shaking rain droplets from her hair like a puppy. Nora watched, a smile tugging at her lips despite the nagging thought that still lingered. Should she really let herself enjoy this? "Do you think we should head inside?" Alex asked, his voice close, the warmth of his breath brushing against her ear as he leaned in. "It is getting pretty slippery." "Yeah, let us take a break," Nora agreed, her heart fluttering slightly at his nearness. "But just for a minute." The moment they stepped back under the overhang, the atmosphere shifted. The noise of the rain diminished, and the cozy intimacy of the shelter wrapped around them. Jacob and Emily began to engage in a playful argument over who would get the first scoop of ice cream, while Nora found herself drawn to Alex, their chemistry palpable like the electricity in the air. "I really admire how you handle them," Alex said, leaning against the bar, a thoughtful expression crossing his face. "You seem to know just how to encourage their spirits." Nora felt a rush of warmth at the compliment, although the remnants of her self-doubt crept in. "I just try to keep them happy," she replied, brushing a damp strand of hair behind her ear. "Some days, it is harder than it looks." "Trust me, it is not easy for anyone," he said, his tone genuine. "You handle it well." "Thanks," she said softly, their eyes locking for a moment that felt charged, heavy with unspoken words. "But I can't help but think, what if I am not doing enough? What if they need more than just me?" "Being there for them is enough," he countered, his expression earnest. "You either anchor, even when you feel adrift." His words resonated deeply within her, and she found herself leaning in just a fraction more, drawn to the sincerity in his gaze. But in the back of her mind, the specter of her past loomed large. What would happen if she let this connection grow? Would it lead to joy or another heartbreak? "Say," Jacob shouted, interrupting her thoughts. "Is anyone getting ice cream, or what?" "Right, ice cream," she said, shaking herself from the moment. "Let us get to it before the rain washes away the chance." "Lead the way," Alex said, a teasing glint in his eyes. With a sense of urgency, Nora navigated the bar area, her heart racing at the thought of what lay ahead. As they approached the ice cream station, she felt Alex's presence beside her, a comforting warmth amidst her growing apprehension. "What do you want, Emily?" "Jacob," she called out over the chatter, positioning herself between her kids and Alex, but she felt the subtle pull of his energy beside her. "Chocolate," Emily exclaimed, bouncing on her toes. "Mint chip," Jacob replied enthusiastically as they reached the counter, high with the excitement of impending treats. "What about you?" Alex asked, leaning slightly closer, the warmth of his arm brushing against hers. "What is your flavor?" Nora paused, her heart fluttering as she looked into his eyes. "I guess I'll go with the classic vanilla. You can't go wrong with it." "Safe choice," he chuckled. "You might want to try something adventurous next time, though." "Adventure is overrated," she teased lightly, but even as she said it, she felt a pang of longing for the spontaneity she had once embraced. "Maybe, but life is too short to stick with the basics," he replied, a hint of challenge in his voice. What is the point of just getting by? Nora felt a flicker of conflict within her. She wanted to embrace that adventurous spirit to break free from the shackles of her routines and fears. But the responsibility of her children weighed down her heart. Maybe I'll take your advice someday, she said softly, trying to justify her choices. Just promise me you'll consider it, he replied, his gaze steady and encouraging. As they collected their ice cream and stepped back into the rain, the storm had lessened to a gentle drizzle, the world around them transforming into a dreamy landscape. The city lights twinkled in the distance, reflecting off the slick streets, and the air felt electric with possibility. Emily and Jacob began to race each other toward a nearby table, their laughter igniting the moment once more. Nora watched them, overwhelmed by the sense of joy that filled her heart, but part of her still held back, wary of letting anyone too close. Crazy kids, she murmured, glancing to Alex, who was watching her with an intensity that made her pulse race. They really do know how to enjoy life. They're really lucky to have you, he said, his voice low, rich with sincerity. Nora felt her cheeks warm again, the compliment settling in her heart. Thank you, she replied, trying to sound nonchalant but failing to hide the tremor in her voice. It's been a rough few years. I can't even imagine. His voice was soft, full of understanding. But you're handling it with grace. That's not easy to come by. Grace? That's one way of putting it, she chuckled lightly, but the truth tugged at her heart. Some days, I feel like I am just holding it all together by a thread. That's okay, he said, moving slightly closer, his body language open and inviting. Just remember, it is okay to lean on someone else. You don't have to do this alone. His words struck a chord deep within her, and the tension between them shifted, turning into something almost palpable. She could feel the heat radiating from him, the warmth of his presence igniting a sudden numbing she hadn't expected. Alex, she started, but the words caught in her throat. What could she say? What could she let him see? Before she could unravel her thoughts, Jacob called out, Mom, come join us. Nora looked towards her kids, who were now animatedly discussing the ice cream flavors. Coming, she called back, her voice strained as she tried to shake off the moment with Alex. But as she turned back to him, Alex reached out, his hand grazing her arm in a way that sent a shiver of awareness down her spine. Hey, if you ever want to talk or just escape for a bit, here's my number, he said, pulling out his phone and typing quickly before handing it to her. Nora looked down at the screen, her heart racing. I don't know if that's a good idea. Why not? He challenged softly. You're amazing, and I'd love to get to know you better. No pressure, I promise, just a friendly invitation. Their eyes locked again, and for a brief moment, Nora felt as though the weight of the world had shifted ever so slightly. It was a delicate balance of excitement and apprehension, a dance on the precipice of something new and unknown. Okay, she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. Maybe I'll consider. Instantly, she felt a mix of relief and anxiety course through her. What was she thinking? Accepting his number felt almost reckless, yet tantalizing. Let us start with coffee, he suggested, his voice teasingly light. You can bring the kids, and we'll try to keep it family-friendly. Who knows, you might find I am not so bad after all. Nora chuckled, the sound mingling with the soft rain that still drizzled around them. That's a generous offer. Just so you know, my kids don't have an off switch. And neither do I, he countered with a grin, his blue eyes sparkling. A little chaos never hurt anyone. As they watched Emily and Jacob eagerly compare their colorful ice creams, Nora felt a warmth spreading through her. The light-hearted banter, the ease of their conversation, and the connection that seemed to spark between them, it was invigorating. But amidst the joy, a shadow of doubt crept in. What if she got too close? What if allowing this connection to blossom would only lead to more heartache? The memories of her past relationships, marked by disappointment and betrayal, loomed large in her mind. Mom, look. Emily called, her arms wide as if trying to embrace the whole world. I am an ice cream monster. More like an ice cream tornado, Jacob laughed, shoving a spoonful of mint chip into his mouth with exaggerated enthusiasm. Nor couldn't he help but smile at their silliness, but a part of her felt the tug of unfulfilled dreams, the desire for something more than just busy days filled with responsibilities. She had dreams once, didn't she? Hey, are you okay? Alex asked, his voice gentle, pulling her from her reverie. His eyes searched her face with a sincerity that felt disarming. Yeah, just a... She hesitated, weighing the words she chose carefully. It has been a long time since I've done anything like this. It feels strange, but nice. Good strange or bad strange? He pressed, his tone light yet laced with concern. Good, I think, she replied, feeling the warmth of his gaze. But there is also a little voice in my head that tells me to be cautious. Caution can be wise, but it can also keep you from experiencing great things, he said softly. You deserve to be happy, Nora, don't let fear hold you back. His words resonated deeply within her, the truth of them igniting a flicker of hope. She wanted to let go, to embrace this moment and the potential it held. But what if she ended up hurting her kids again? What if she let herself fall and couldn't he get back up? Just then, the sound of thunder rumbled in the distance, reminding her of the storm that had gathered around them not long ago. Okay, ice cream monsters, time to finish up before the rain comes back, she called to her children, who were momentarily distracted by the spectacle of their melted treats. On it! Jacob exclaimed, shoveling the last spoonful into his mouth with determination. Emily mimicked him, her little face a portrait of concentration as she battled her ice cream. Nora turned back to Alex, her heart pounding with a mixture of exhilaration and hesitation. Thank you for today, for being well, you. It was my pleasure, he replied, his voice warm, and she noticed the subtle way he shifted closer to her, as if he couldn't help but be drawn into her orbit. Do you do this often? She asked, attempting to steer the conversation away from her internal conflict. Take children to rooftop bars in the rain? Not usually, but I have to admit, I could get used to it, he said, keeping his gaze fixed on her. Oh, I'd prefer less rain and more dancing next time. Next time. The words slipped from her lips before she could think better of them, and she felt a rush of warmth flood her cheeks. Yeah, if you let me, I'd love to do this again, just you and me, and the ice cream tornadoes, of course, he added with a wink. Nora bit her lip, torn between the thrill of possibility and the heaviness of her reality. Could she really allow this connection to flourish? You don't even know me, she managed, her voice slightly shaky. True, but I do like to, and I think you do like getting to know me too, he replied, his tone earnest. I am not just some billionaire who throws money around to charm people. I believe in real connections. Billionaire, she repeated, a wry smile creeping onto her lips. Is that how you see yourself, the charming billionaire? Only when it suits my purpose, he said, an amused smile dancing across his features. But really, I just want to make an honest connection, something not based on wealth or status. Nora studied him, trying to discern whether he was genuine or just another man with a charming facade. How do I know you were not just saying that? Because I am standing here, drenched in rain, sharing ice cream with you and your kids, he replied simply, sincerity etched across his face. Her heart fluttered, battling her instincts to protect herself and her children. And what happens when the rain stops? Then we'll find new adventures, he said, his voice steady. But right now, I am just enjoying this moment with you. Whatever comes next is up to us. Nora felt a swell of emotions, excitement, hope, and fear all tangled up together. Could she truly allow herself to be swept away by this charming billionaire who seemed to see her not just as a mother, but as a woman with dreams and desires? As her children finished their ice cream, she wrestled with her thoughts, torn between the urge to protect herself and the yearning for connection. Was it worth the risk? Mom. Emily's excited voice broke into her thoughts. Can we go up to the viewing area? It is so cool up there. Sure, let us do it, she called back, her heart racing as she looked at Alex. Are you coming? Absolutely, he replied, a grin lighting up his face. As they made their way to the viewing area, Nora felt the air between them shift again, charged with unspoken words and emotions. The view from the rooftop was breathtaking, the city lights twinkling like stars scattered across the ground. Wow, look at that! Jacob exclaimed, pointing at the skyline. It is like we were on top of the world. Nora watched her children's faces light up with awe and wonder. It really is beautiful, she said, feeling a sense of peace wash over her. So, what do you think? Alex asked, standing beside her, their shoulders brushing against each other in a way that ignited a spark of awareness. Does this make up for the rain? It definitely does, she replied, her heart racing at the closeness between them. But I think I still owe you a proper thank you for the umbrella. In a time, he winked, his smile infectious. But I am still waiting for you to up your flavor game. Nora laughed, the lightness of the moment washing over her, pushing aside the trepidations that had been clouding her thoughts. All right, challenge accepted, but only if you promise to join me. The deal, he replied, his gaze intense, a promise hanging in the air between them. In that moment, as they stood together, overlooking the city, she felt the walls she had built around her heart begin to crack. Maybe it was time to embrace the unknown, to allow herself to experience life's unpredictable magic once more. "Alex," she began, heart pounding, ready to embrace the chance to explore whatever this was between them, when suddenly Emily squealed in delight. "Look, a rainbow!" They all turned to see the colors arching across the sky, vivid and bright against the backdrop of the fading storm clouds. Nora felt a surge of warmth, the moment somehow symbolizing hope and new beginnings. "T," Alex said, leaning closer to her. "Even the storm can create something beautiful." Nora looked at him, her heart racing. The connection was undeniable, and with the rainbow stretching across the sky, she felt emboldened. Maybe she could allow herself to step toward the unknown. "Maybe you rewrite," she said, her voice steadying. "Maybe it's time for a little adventure." The air around them felt electric, the weight of possibility heavy yet thrilling, and as they stood together, she felt a flicker of hope ignite in her heart, ready to embrace whatever awaited them.